Alright, this video continues section 4.3, and this one talks about how to divide fractions. Dividing fractions is one that students usually don't remember as well as multiplying and adding and subtracting fractions. So before we start dividing fractions, the first thing we need to do is review what a reciprocal is. Reciprocals are two numbers in which their product is 1. So an example would be 9 over 10 times 10 over 9. 9/10 and 10 over 9 are called reciprocals of each other because when you multiply them together, the 9's reduce to 1's and the 10's reduce to 1's, and you get 1. Okay? So whenever you want to find a reciprocal, as you can see here, 9/10 and 10/9, all you do is flip the number around because that makes them, when you multiply, it makes their product 1. Okay? So the reciprocal of 1 over 11 is 11 over 1, or just 11. So whenever you want to find a reciprocal, you just flip it around. You interchange their numerator and their denominator. So let's do some examples here. What's the reciprocal of 4/9? These are all from your paper. That would be 9/4. If you flip it around, you get 9 over 4. If you're going to multiply those together, you get 1. The reciprocal of 13 over 9 is 9 over 13. The reciprocal of 9, or 9 over 1, is 1 over 9. So why don't you try to do letter D and letter E on your paper and bring that into class. Alright, so now that we know what reciprocals are, we're able to talk about how to divide fractions. To divide fractions, you multiply the first fraction by the reciprocal of the second fraction because dividing by a number is the same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal. If you think about it, if you divide by a half, if you cut things in halves, it's the same thing as multiplying by 2 because now you have twice as many. Okay, so dividing by a half is the same thing as multiplying by 2 over 1, which is its reciprocal. So whenever you have A over B divided by C over D, you keep A over B the same, but you flip or write C over D as the reciprocal, D over C, and you switch it to multiply. Now we do the same thing we just learned in the first part of this section and multiply straight across. A times D over B times C. So let's look at some examples here. 4/5 divided by 1/8. Okay, so when you divide fractions, that's the same thing as doing 4/5 times, remember you make division into multiplication, 1/8 reciprocal, which is 8 over 1. Okay, now you can multiply straight across. Remember to see if you can simplify first, that'll save you time. Nothing simplifies in this case. So multiply straight across. 4 times 8 is 32, and 1 times 5 is 5. So 32 over 5, which you could leave like that if you want. Or if you remember how to write it as a mixed number, 5 goes into 32 6 times, but 6 times 5 is only 30, so we have 2 left over. So 6 and 2/5. That was from section 4.1 if you need to look back on how to rewrite an improper fraction as a mixed number. So letter B on your sheet says 14 over 17 divided by negative 2/5. That would be the same thing as doing 14 over 17 times, remember, multiply by the reciprocal of the second number, negative 5/2. The negative just stays in front. Okay, remember to see if you can simplify first. The 5 and the 17 don't reduce, and the 5 and the 2 can't reduce. But the 14 and the 2 can reduce. 2 goes into 2 once. 2 goes into 14 7 times. Multiply straight across. 7 times 5 is 35. 17 times 1 is 17. A positive times a negative is a negative. So it just happened the first two that the book had us do were both improper fractions. That won't always be true. 17 goes into 35, negative 2 times, because of the negative. 17 times 2 is 34, so there's 1/17 left over. Okay, so to divide fractions, you flip and multiply. Do the reciprocal of the second number and multiply. Okay, so you'll see those examples here on this PowerPoint. Okay, so why don't you try letter C on your handout, negative 7/12 divided by negative 5/6, and bring that one into class. Letter D has letters in it, 3y over 4 divided by 5y cubed. If there's no denominator, remember it's 5y cubed over 1. So the first thing you should do is write that over 1. Okay? When you divide again, you multiply by the reciprocal of our second fraction called the divisor. Okay, so the second one flips. Now we can reduce first. The 3 and the 4 and the 3 and the 5 don't reduce. A 1 doesn't reduce with anything. But one of the y's would reduce with one of these y's. And remember, you could write that out as y times y times y, which means one of the y's reduce. Now multiply straight across. 3 times 1 is 3. 4 times 5 is 20. Y times y is y squared. Alright, so why don't you try to do letter E, which is very similar to that problem. 2x over 3 divided by 3x squared. You can pause the video right now if you need to do that. Alright, what do you do when there's 3 or more fractions? So letter F has 3 fractions. It says 4/7 times 3/8 divided by negative 3/4. So right away I see a divide by a fraction. So before I start to do anything, I'm going to flip and multiply. Multiply by the reciprocal. Like we've learned, that's how you divide fractions. The rest of the problem can stay the same, or will stay the same. Okay, so whichever one's divided by is the one you flip and multiply. Now, there are parentheses around these two, but remember when you multiply, we learn the associative property and the commutative property, which says you can multiply in any order you want. So I'm going to multiply all these 3 together at the same time. Here, I'll make this larger for you, if that helps. Okay, so to multiply these 3 fractions, remember you can reduce any numerator with any denominator. So I'm going to start by reducing the 4 and the 8. 4 goes into 4 once, 4 goes into 8 twice. I still see a 2 and a 4 here. 2 can reduce, 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 4 twice. Also I see a 3 and a 3. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 3 once. Now I have 1, 1, and a 7, and a 1, 1, and a 2. So the 2 and the 7 can't reduce. Multiply straight across. 1 times 1 times 2 is 2. 7 times 1 times 1 is 7. And don't forget there's 1 negative. Remember, if there's 1 negative, the answer is negative. 2 negatives would multiply to a positive. 3 negatives would multiply to a negative. Okay, so why don't you try to do letter D, or letter G, on your paper. Alright, here's an example with expressions. Evaluate xy if x is 7/8 and y is negative 1/3. So again, all that means is plug it in. Do 7/8 times negative 1/3. Use what we've learned, multiply straight across. You get negative 7 times 24. Now let's do the same thing, x divided by y. So now it would be 7/8 divided by negative 1/3. So just to review, multiply, you multiply straight across, and you can reduce first. To divide, you flip the second one, the divisor, and you multiply. Again, you would want to reduce first if you can, which you can't. So you get negative 21 over 8, which is the same thing as negative 2 and 5/8. Alright, let's do a story problem. This is number 6 on your page. It says 2/9 of the general ed teachers are math teachers at Fox Valley Technical College. There are 72 gen ed teachers at FVTC. How many math teachers are there? Okay? So understand the first step. Read and reread the problem. We are told that 2/9 of the gen ed teachers are math teachers. Remember that word of is key. If you remember when we went through multiplication, of means to multiply. So 2/9 of the total number of gen ed teachers, which it says is 72. So the number of math teachers equals 2/9 of the total, which it says is 72. So you multiply 2/9 times 72 over 1. The 9 would reduce to 1. The 72 would reduce to 8. So you have 2 times 8 over 1 times 1, which would give us 16 over 1, which means there are 16 math teachers at FVTC. Does that make sense? If 2/9 of them, 2/9 of the 72 teachers gives us 16, that sounds about right, I think. Okay, so just remember the word of means times. So why don't you try number 7? It says a 24-gallon gas tank is 3/4 of the way full. How many gallons are in the tank? All right, so try that one and bring that one into class. Thank you so much for watching this. Let me know if you have any questions when you come to class.